If Governor Romney cannot hold the president to account, at least we can rely on the defender of sound money from Kansas, Republican Congressman Tim Huelskamp. Good friend of the show. Congressman, welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Hey, thank you for having me back again, Judge.
All right, the government has not had a budget for 1,000 days for the entire time that Barack Obama has been in the White House, including the first 2 years when his own party controlled both houses of Congress. What do you think makes him think he'll get one this time around?
Well, we're not expecting much of one. He's already passed a deadline. He's the first president ever that's missed 4 straight deadlines for a budget. Of course, he's the first president ever to have plus trillion-dollar deficits his entire presidency.
Is the proposal by the president, which he hasn't formally made yet, but which his folks leaked out earlier today, to raise taxes by $1.5 trillion, truly the largest tax hike in American history, is that dead on arrival in the House of Representatives? And if it is, doesn't the president know that?
Well, this is about the campaign. It's not about any policy. He's got to convince people there's another opponent out there, because if he runs on his policies, he runs on 9% unemployment and millions of Americans out of work, he can't win the election. He has to create a disguise, a ploy to distract the American people from failed economic policies coming out of this White House.
Why do you think, Congressman Huelskamp, the president is reluctant to address entitlements in a meaningful way? Why not change the age of eligibility in Medicare and Social Security to a higher but yet reasonable number? Why not do things like that that would save tens of billions of dollars?
Well, I agree with doing that. I think we should look at that. But it hasn't just been the president. It's been multiple administrations putting that off into the future, making future generations pay that off. It's
right.
Promise now and pay later. And it's just not a Democrat problem. It's a Washington problem.
Right.
But this president has been the worst of all for decades, and we're going to pay the price for it because of these trillion-dollar deficits.
Another Washington problem is the lack of transparency. We don't always know how the government spends its money. We don't know what the Fed does. We'd like to look at that. Are you, Congressman Tim Huelskamp from the great state of Kansas, by yourself doing something to address the absence of transparency in the borrowing, collecting, and spending process?
Well, I'm not doing it by myself, but we passed just through the House a bill that would open up the budget a little bit more, open that door a little bit wider. But it was amazing here. The Democrats argue about that, claiming we know what things cost. We have a $318 billion bailout of Fannie and Freddie, and those folks are saying, hey, we knew that was coming. I mean, it's those kind of surprises what happened when Washington, since Elvis had his first album, this town has never balanced the budget, but you would think we're cutting budgets every day, Judge. That's not the case. The American people are fed up with it. They're fed up with both parties. Everybody promises to balance the budget, but it never happens because of the way they cook the books.
Do I have you right? The Democrats in the House and the Senate do not want the American people to know more about this process. They are opposed to transparency because they ran in 2008 claiming they were in favor of transparency.
Oh, absolutely. They're opposed to it. They just voted on the floor against opening up that budget. And they're going to not allow us to see a budget out of the Senate. It's been over 1,000 days. The president's 4 years in a row late from bringing a budget because he doesn't want people to know what's happening here. And we are awash in red ink in this city and this nation, and it's time to make some cuts. That's the only answer out there. If we don't make them, there's going to be outside forces that are loaning us money are going to demand that in the near future.
Congressman Tim Huelskamp, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Judge.